Right now, in this exact moment, something extraordinary is happening. You clicked on this video, and maybe you don't know why. Maybe you were scrolling mindlessly through your feed, and this title just grabbed you. Or maybe you've been feeling something stirring inside you lately, something you can't quite name. And these words felt like they were speaking directly to you. Here's what I want you to understand. The fact that you're hearing these words right now isn't random. It's not coincidence. It's not luck. There's something deeper at work here, something that's been quietly orchestrating moments like this in your life, waiting for you to finally pay attention. You see, most people move through their days believing that life just happens to them. They wake up, follow their routines, react to whatever comes their way, and then wonder why everything feels so ordinary, so predictable, so stuck. But what if I told you that there's an invisible current running beneath the surface of your everyday experience, and it's been trying to get your attention for longer than you realize? Think about it. How many times have you had a random conversation that led to exactly the opportunity you needed? How many times have you stumbled across a book, a video, a person right when you were ready to hear their message? How many times have you felt that strange pull towards something you couldn't explain, only to discover later that it was exactly where you needed to go? These aren't accidents. They're breadcrumbs. They're signals from a part of you that sees the bigger picture, even when your conscious mind is too busy worrying about tomorrow's meeting or yesterday's mistakes to notice. And right now, this message finding you is another one of those breadcrumbs. But here's the thing about breadcrumbs. You can either follow them or you can ignore them and keep walking in circles, wondering why you always end up in the same place. Let me share something with you that most people never realize. Every single day, you receive dozens of these subtle signals, these quiet nudges towards something better. They show up as sudden ideas that excite you for no logical reason. They appear as uncomfortable feelings that make you question whether you're living the life you actually want. They manifest as dreams that feel so real, you wake up wondering if they're trying to tell you something important. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people dismiss these signals as random thoughts, as stress, as their imagination running wild. They've been taught to trust only what they can see, measure, and control. So they miss the guidance system that's been trying to help them navigate toward their best life all along. The truth is, you have an internal compass that's far more sophisticated than any technology we've created. It knows things your logical mind hasn't figured out yet. It can sense opportunities before they become obvious. It can feel when you're moving towards something that aligns with who you're meant to become. And it can warn you when you're drifting away from your path. This compass speaks to you through feelings, through synchronicities, through those moments when something just clicks, and you know, without knowing how you know, that you're onto something important. And the more you learn to listen to it, the more your life starts to flow in ways that feel almost magical. But there's a catch. This guidance system only works when you're willing to act on what it tells you. It's not enough to just notice the signs. You have to be brave enough to follow where they lead, even when the destination isn't clear, even when it means leaving behind what's familiar and comfortable. And that's exactly where you are right now. You're at one of those crossroads where your inner compass is pointing you towards something new, something that requires you to trust a process you can't fully understand yet. That's why this message found you today. That's why these words feel different from all the other content you've consumed. Your system is ready for an upgrade. Not the kind of upgrade where you learn a new skill or buy better equipment, but the kind where you start operating from a completely different level of awareness, where instead of constantly swimming against the current, you learn to recognize the flow and let it carry you toward experiences that feel effortless and aligned. But here's what nobody tells you about this kind of transformation. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without some discomfort, because to access this higher level of functioning, you have to be willing to release the patterns and beliefs that have been keeping you stuck in the same loops. You know those loops I'm talking about, the ones where you set goals but somehow sabotage your progress, where you meet new people but end up in the same types of relationships, where you start projects with enthusiasm but lose momentum before reaching the finish line. These loops aren't character flaws. They're outdated programming that served a purpose once but now just keeps you cycling through the same experiences over and over. The beautiful thing is, once you understand how these loops work, you can start to step outside of them. You can begin to see the patterns before they pull you in. And that's when life starts to feel less like a series of random events and more like a carefully orchestrated journey towards something meaningful. But breaking free from these loops requires something that most people aren't willing to give. It requires you to pay attention to the subtle signals your system is constantly sending you. The ones that whisper when you're about to make a choice that will keep you stuck. The ones that light in a direction that serves up when you're moving your growth. And that attention, that willingness to listen to the quiet voice beneath all the noise. That's what separates people who keep repeating their past from people who step into something entirely new. So as you're listening to this, I want you to ask yourself something. What signals have you been ignoring lately? What feelings have you been pushing aside because they don't fit into your current plan? What dreams have you been dismissing as unrealistic or impractical? Because those ignored signals, those pushed aside feelings, those dismissed dreams, they're all trying to point you toward the next chapter of your story. And that chapter is waiting for you to be brave enough to turn the page. The question isn't whether you have the courage to turn that page. The question is whether you're ready to stop pretending that you don't already know what needs to happen next. Because somewhere inside you, beneath all the doubt and second guessing, there's a part of you that's been preparing for this moment. It's been collecting experiences, building skills, forming connections, all in service of something you haven't fully recognized yet. Every challenge you've overcome, every lesson you've learned, every time you've had to dig deeper than you thought possible, it's all been preparing you for what's coming. But here's where it gets tricky. Your mind is designed to keep you safe, and safety, to your mind, means staying with what's known. So the moment you start moving towards something new, something that requires growth, your mental security system kicks in. It floods you with all the reasons why now isn't the right time, why you need more preparation, why you should wait until conditions are perfect. This is where most people get stuck. They mistake the voice of caution for the voice of wisdom. They think that because change feels uncertain, it must be dangerous. They wait for a guarantee that doesn't exist, for a sign so obvious that there's no risk involved. But that's not how transformation works. Real growth happens in the space between where you are and where you're being called to go. It happens when you're willing to move forward without seeing the whole staircase, trusting that each step will reveal the next one. And the only way to develop that trust is to start taking those steps, even when your logical mind is listing all the ways it could go wrong. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem to navigate life with a kind of effortless confidence. They didn't get there by playing it safe or waiting for perfect conditions. They got there by learning to distinguish between the voice of fear and the voice of intuition. They developed the ability to feel the difference between a warning that's meant to protect them and resistance that's just trying to keep them small. And that distinction, that ability to read the signals accurately, that's what changes everything. Because once you can tell the difference, you stop being paralyzed by uncertainty and start being guided by it. You begin to see that the discomfort you feel when you're on the edge of growth isn't a stop sign. It's a compass needle pointing toward your next level of expansion. Right now, as you're listening to this, you can probably feel that discomfort stirring. Maybe it's showing up as restlessness, like you're outgrowing something but can't quite identify what. Maybe it's appearing as dissatisfaction with parts of your life that used to feel good enough. Maybe it's manifesting as a strange pull toward possibilities that excite and terrify you at the same time. That stirring isn't random, it's information. It's your system telling you that you're ready for something bigger, something more aligned with who you're becoming. But it's also testing whether you're willing to trust the process of becoming, even when you can't see where it leads. And here's what makes this moment different from all the other times you've felt this stirring. This time, you have a choice to make that will determine the trajectory of everything that follows. You can acknowledge what you're feeling and take action, or you can push it down and hope it goes away. But let me tell you something about these callings, these inner nudges toward growth. They don't go away. They just get quieter for a while, waiting for the next moment when you're ready to listen. And each time you ignore them, each time you choose the familiar over the unknown, something inside you dims a little. Not permanently, but noticeably. Because your soul knows what it came here to do. And when you keep choosing comfort over calling, you create a kind of internal friction. It's the friction between who you're capable of becoming and who you're choosing to remain. And that friction shows up as boredom, as anxiety, as a vague sense that you're wasting time you don't have to waste. But the beautiful thing about this moment, about this message finding you right now, is that it's offering you a reset, a chance to stop running from the very thing that wants to elevate your entire experience of being alive. A chance to finally align your choices with the deeper knowing that's been trying to guide you all along. The path forward isn't about making dramatic changes all at once. It's about making one small choice that honors what you know to be true, even if you can't explain why you know it. It's about saying yes to the next right step, even when you can't see step 3 or step 10. Because transformation isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a way of moving through life that keeps you in conversation with the part of you that sees possibilities where others see problems, that finds opportunities where others find obstacles. And that conversation, that ongoing dialogue with your highest potential, that's what this message is really about. It's an invitation to stop living like you're separate from the intelligence that orchestrates everything and start living like you're part of it. So here we are, at the end of this message that somehow found its way to you today. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you kept listening even when your logical mind wanted to dismiss these words as just another video, then you already know the truth. You already feel what's stirring beneath the surface of your everyday life. This isn't about believing in magic or waiting for the universe to hand you everything you want. This is about recognizing that you've always had access to a guidance system more reliable than any GPS, more intuitive than any algorithm. It's about remembering that the breadcrumbs have always been there, scattered along your path, waiting for you to stop rushing long enough to notice them. The signals you've been receiving, the restlessness you've been feeling, the dreams you've been pushing aside, they're all pointing toward the same thing. The next version of yourself is ready to emerge. Not someday when conditions are perfect, not after you've figured everything out, but now, right now. So what happens next is entirely up to you. You can close this video and go back to scrolling, treating these words like just another piece of content you consumed. Or you can take one small step in the direction your inner compass is pointing, even if you can't see where the path leads. Because the truth is, you wouldn't have found this message unless you were already ready for what comes next. Trust that. Trust the part of you that led you here. And most importantly, trust that the next breadcrumb is already waiting for you to discover it. The question was never whether you're capable of the transformation that's calling you. The question is whether you're finally ready to stop pretending you don't already know what needs to happen next.